Hey y'all, good afternoon. Thank you for joining. Uh, I have a request from Latoya's note taker. And I want to make sure I'm going to not approve of that. I'm going to decline it, but I want to make sure that doesn't kick out Latoya. So any thoughts on that? Hey Lauren, hey Karina, thanks for joining. All right, I'm going to press decline on that. Um, so I know everybody is hella busy and multitasking during a Friday lunchtime presentation, and that is perfectly fine. But if we can all come on camera just for a second so I can see who I'm talking to, because talking to empty boxes is lame. Um, and beautiful people, thank you for joining today. Hey Ryan, hey Andres. Ro, we just lost you. Hi, Jess. Is it Jess? Great. Hi, Lisa. Yvonne, thanks for joining today. By the way, I'm recording this workshop, just kind of the lecture part of it, if you will, the me talking part. And then whenever we do uh, like Q&A or individual um, discussions, we will not record that part. All right, so just letting y'all know. Um, all right, so it's good to see. Hey, Sally. Um, Hello, Carol. And so today's topic is empathy as a muscle, which, as I described in the workshop description, it's really about how empathy can help us to stay grounded and focused so that we can make smart decisions with our kiddos, whether we're a parent or an educator or both. And So that we can make good decisions that will lead them to great behavior, right? And empathy is not a new thing that we talk about. Empathy is connected to all forms of ancient wisdom, right? From every religion having its form of the golden rule, right? Every religion teaching love and kindness. From that wonderful song in preschool, love is something if you give it away. It's just like a magic penny. Hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it, and you'll have so many they'll roll all over the floor. Right. And so, like, when we have empathy, we also understand that it gives something to us. Right. And so, in a meditation tradition, I forget which one, there's the concept of metta, right, which is loving kindness that you give to the world to make the world better, but also that helps to ground us and keeps us present. And so the basic bullet points of the presentation today that I'm going to go over in this next half hour are that empathy, while being wonderful for other people, is really important as parents and educators because it grounds us and keeps us calm and able to make good decisions. Right? It's a hack that interrupts our sympathetic nervous system. And second, that when we engage in empathy, we can have better practices with our kiddos. And third, that by that empathy doesn't have to be on automatic. It is a muscle. We can build it, we can practice it, we can get better at it. And I certainly have. And so I want to jump into a story about my own family. And this is from the fall. And this fall was probably the hardest time of my entire life and very, very difficult for my family. And we had double tragedies, if you will, or big setbacks, big hardships. My youngest son, who's 7, has a degenerative disease in his femur. He's going to fully recover from it, by the way. And so we recognized that, and he had to have major surgery. And this surgery was both, the recovery was both very painful and disabling. So he was in a wheelchair for 8 weeks. He couldn't do the things that he wants to do, and we had to sponge bathe him, and that's where he focused all of his anger and resentment. Like every night he would scream, "I want to take a bath. I want to take a bath. I want to take a bath." And like it was really, really challenging. His recovery is going great right now, but he became a cranky little awful person in that. And so that was one experience. And then I have an older kiddo who is 13 who went through a really serious mental health spiral this fall. And that also made him aggressive. Sorry, them, made them aggressive, mean. Um, they would spiral from things that other kids would consider to be a bummer and get really, really angry about things. And here's what I noticed when I was facing those, that when my older kid would spiral and get aggressive, it was I really wanted to get into a power struggle with them. I really wanted to shut down their behavior. It was like all the things that I learned from my parents, which is you don't take crap from your kids, you shut that down, you threaten, you punish. And I've done a ton of work on that as a parent, but those instincts would come out. Most of the time, I could navigate it. Sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I lost that battle, right? And with my younger kid, he would do very similar behaviors, and it didn't trigger me at all because I could see his disability. I could see what was going on with him and identify, I know this sucks. If I couldn't move, if I had to take a sponge bath, if I was in pain, I would be just as pissy as you are, right? Probably more. And so it became very easy for me to have empathy and therefore navigate his pain graciously. Whereas with my older kiddo, I see a comment from Jonas. Okay, no worries. Yes, I'll share the recording with you afterwards. Absolutely. And
Thank
so
you. Sorry about the interruption.
no worries. Thanks for coming.
Of course.
So with my older kiddo, because it was an invisible disability, right? Because mental illness is an invisible disability, it was so much harder for me to show empathy. And what I also noticed is when I was frustrated and engaging in power struggles with my older kiddo, it didn't do any good. I was never able to shut it down. My screaming, threatening, punishing didn't change their behaviors at all. Right. Whereas my younger kiddo, just being there, being present, being empathetic, really could um, not only felt better for me, right? Because it was engaging in loving dad, but also one I would be with him and just hear him and validate, the anger would go away pretty quickly, right? And so in the beginning when it was pain there was a lot, but later on that frustration it wouldn't last more than 5 minutes. And then once he was in that space where he felt validated, then I could try to redirect or use 100 other tools that I've learned in order to support more productive behavior from him. And I realized how unfair that is to my kids, right? And so that's when I started really thinking about, and I had learned about empathy as a hack for our sympathetic nervous system before, but that's when it really came into clarity with me for me and where I started to use it as a teaching tool. And so if you think about something that happens to you in the world. It could be from your kids, it could be from your students, it could be driving, right? What's something that happens that gets you super irritated that maybe causes a bigger reaction than you want to, right? So maybe it's a like level 3 or 4 annoyance, but you give it a level 9 or 10 reaction. Anybody want to share what one of those reactions are and also pop it in chat for everyone?
I would like to share when my kids throw things, particularly. I don't know if that is a level 3 annoyance, but I'm like, it just feels like that's so inappropriate. It's so not okay. And I
Mhm.
do unproductive responses.
Great. Great. And sorry, one more thing, Sally. When you are angry for that, what are you telling yourself about why they're throwing it? What's the story you're telling yourself in that moment?
I'm not. I'm not
Mm,
curious. I'm like, just stop it.
right, right. So I would argue that you are telling yourself a story,
Mm.
right? But you're not articulating it, right? And so the story is something like, my kids are out of control. This is
Yeah.
unacceptable behavior. I would never have done this when I was a child. My mom would have smacked me if I had done this, or I would have been grounded for a week. This is inappropriate. My kids are going to get kicked out of school for violent behavior, and they're never going to have, right? Like we
Yeah.
conspire in all of that, right? Does that match? Maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I want to, one, point out that throwing stuff is not acceptable, right? And so I want to like say that as we go through this, we're not going to take away that boundary that your kids, should be able to throw things, right? But if we took an empathetic approach, right? And you may have to struggle here for this one. What would an empathetic approach to throwing be? And anyone can jump in.
Does a smack count or
No, it does not.
my bad.
It does not. And unless you're like smacking yourself and pinching yourself to remind yourself not to do that. But yes, thank you for asking, Dr. Hill. Anyone else? What does an empathetic approach look like? Elisa?
Looks like you really are enjoying throwing things. Let's go outside and find something to throw.
Yes. So that's an amazing redirect, right? So that's one great possibility. It looks like you really want to throw things. Let's go do this somewhere else. Anyone else? So the one that I tell myself in situations like this, and this is a great one, Sally, because it is so like inappropriate and triggering, right? And also like, how do we be empathetic about it, right? They're doing something they don't want to do. So my default here is my kid is communicating a need and does not have the skills to communicate it in other ways, right? My kid is communicating a need and doesn't have the skills to do it in other ways. If I hold that sense, right, then I can stay calm and go through a process of one, just stopping the bad behavior, right, or stopping the negative behavior. It's not okay for you to throw. It's not. Please put that down. I'm going to take it from you. I'm going to hold your hands if you need me to. Let's sit down together. Right. And remember, when your kid is having a temper tantrum, the first goal and only goal is to get through the temper tantrum. You are not teaching life lessons here, right? They can't hear you anyway, right? And so if I can empathize, helps me stay calm, right? And and then I can help them to calm down as well, right? Then we can try to figure out what is the need that you have, right? So you threw the toy because you were really mad about having to get off of TV and come to the dinner table, right? I can empathize with that. People bother me all the time when I'm not ready for it and I don't want to be bothered, right? I get that. I'm really sorry that the TV had to end, right? And it is still time to come to the dinner table. Are you ready? Can you help me pick up the stuff that you threw? I bet you can't get there before me, right? I bet I'm faster than you. Oh my goodness, you're faster than me. Okay, let's put that. Can we do it in 10 seconds? 10, great, right? All of that. So now I'm redirecting, kind of gamifying the repair piece of that. And then, like 10 minutes later, right, when everything's calm, let's talk about that. What are ways that you can express your anger that don't involve throwing things, right? So I have a similar situation with this is when my older kid was younger, like 5. And they were terrible at losing, right? And so if they lost, they were a kid who would flip a board game, right? They were a kid who would scream that we were cheating when I'm like, I saw you cheating 5 times and I'm playing by the rules, right? But I had like serious worry that they would never be able to play well with other kids because they would get so upset if they were losing, right? And they would be screaming about Foursquare. By the way, why does kids Foursquare have so many rules? Right? And so they would scream about that. They might cry, right? All of these things. Now, I know something about not losing well. One story I like to share is that I am a very competitive person, and I am the only person I know who was ever red carded out of a soccer game for screaming at my own teammates. In fairness, we had a basic strategy and none of them were executing it. And so like I know something about this. I have also grown up to be a person who can compete and lose without lose and have at least some grace and propriety when I lose, right? Still don't love it. So I would yell at my kid for screaming. I would threaten them that we were never going to play this board game again, or there were no games for a week. I would say, I'm not going to let you go play with those kids outside if you can't handle it, right? And then I learned a lesson from the kids outside that was amazing. So my kid was playing tag with other kids, and they were a little older. And so he was the slowest, even if they were his age, they might have been the slowest. And so he was playing tag, they were playing tag. And so when they got it, they couldn't tag anybody, right? And they got super frustrated, started crying, came into the house, were really mad. And then like 5 minutes later, the kid who actually lives upstairs, Taj, who's now in college, calls up and he's like, Blaine, Blaine. And I came up and I said, Blaine is resetting now. And he said, we have an idea. Instead of regular tag, we'll play freeze tag. Because when you play freeze tag, then you go in and out of being it all the time, right? And so he won't doesn't have to be it, but if we catch him, he'll just be frozen, not it. And it was like, these kids are geniuses, right? So they figured out how to shift the frame for my kiddo so he could participate in the game in a way that didn't ask him to have the ability to lose with grace that he wasn't ready to show yet. From that, I came up with the idea of having a conversation with my kiddo. When you get really angry or feel like things are not working in your favor and you're about to lose, what can we do? Right? And he came up with the ideas, they came up with the idea that number one, if you need a hug from me, you can always come get a hug from me. Number two, if you ask for my permission, you can punch me in the butt as hard as you want. Right? And now that they're 13, they don't get to do this anymore. But when they were 5, and they started to feel frustrated, and I would say, look, oh, what do you need? What do you need? Can I punch you in the butt? I'd say yes, and I'd turn around, and then they'd punch me in the butt, and then I would flop on the ground like an Italian soccer player. I'd like roll around and scream in agony on all this, and then he would laugh, and we would laugh. We would usually wrestle, right? And that would get things out. But the key in all of these situations was engaging with empathy in situations where I thought the behavior was really inappropriate, where I thought that they should be able to have these skills by this age, where I was worried about their future if they didn't develop these skills, right? And so having empathy really helped to keep me calm so that I could be creative, so that I could be present, so that I could come up with good solutions in the moment. Because when we are triggered, right, when we are in our sympathetic nervous system, our logical brain shuts down, right? When we are triggered and in fight flight, if we're about to fight a bear, right? You're operating on instincts. You don't need your logical brain because if you're going to fight a bear, your logical brain is going to tell you you're about to die, right? Whereas your lizard brain is like, we got this, right? And that's the brain you need in that moment. However, when it's your kid, right, we need our logical brain to be on and we need our hearts to be on. And empathy is what can help us with that, right? Any questions or thoughts so far? Pushback? I don't believe you. That couldn't work for me and my family. Any of that?
There you go.
Hey,
Hey.
I've been here for a minute. I just out of screen. What's the worst case scenario of like utterly ignoring that behavior? That is like his screaming and going completely berserk.
Right. So there are situations where ignoring is an amazing strategy, right? Because ignoring is telling your kid that I am not going to respond to this behavior,
Right.
right? In the case of my kids, and since I know a little bit about yours, your kiddo, that usually can amp up into other behaviors that will get your attention.
Oh.
Right. So I'm screaming, dad's not paying attention. So now I'm going to throw things.
Oh.
Now I'm going to break things. Now I'm going to go into, right. And in a way that will get your attention and probably in a negative way.
Oh, I've not experienced that yet so far. If he does that, why not just address that behavior when that arises? Because I've not experienced him amping anything. When I ignore him when he's, I think, overreacting, but of course, overreacting. It is just, the way he's dealing with it. From my perspective, it's overreaction, which is, I understand from where my own damage and all this.
Yeah.
So I understand that. But when I have ignored him, he's usually, he's always stopped.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So in this case, right, I would say when he's doing it, right? So one, there's the kind of whining for your attention type of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's fine to ignore that, right? Then if there's like the big emotion, right?
Yeah.
First of validation, right? I see that you're really upset and frustrated. I am going to help you get through that, but first you need to express yourself in an appropriate way.
Okay.
Right? We want to show our kids that any emotion they have is okay and valid, but expressing those, there are inappropriate and appropriate ways to express those emotions, right? You can be pissed off, rageful, hateful, whatever, and that will not scare me.
Yeah.
But if you cuss me out, that's not okay. Right? I mean, that's not your kid. That's my 13.
That's our kid too. I mean, he's moving there fast. He mostly just kicks us and things like that. Right.
Yeah. And so in those types of things, I think you do have to put a stop to it.
Yeah.
Right. But so like ignoring works if it doesn't amp up the behavior and it's not causing any harm. And then I would also say once your kiddo gets past that, then it's really important to engage with them.
Yeah.
Right. And so I see now you're calm. What was so frustrating to you? Yep. Yeah. I get that. You wanted more and you couldn't have more. Right. Yeah. I get that. And that sucks. Right. And maybe later we can give you more of ABCD. Right. Yeah. And so you were saying like, I validate the emotion and the experience, but you're screaming at me isn't the right way to communicate.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that's great. Oh, Yvonne, excellent question. What if they don't want to talk about it? So I have a teenager. So yeah, all the time, right? And so in that case, I may ask and then say like, look, I just want you to know if you do want to talk about what you were experiencing, I'm here for you, right? The other thing is that I've started doing with my teenager because they do dysregulate really quickly if we're doing difficult discussions, right? And so my empathetic responses, they are not skilled, they don't have the stamina yet to stay in challenging discussions for a long time. And so what we're going to do is say, like, look, you have to talk about this because something happened wrong and we have to figure out a plan to repair. We will not talk more than 2 minutes. And then after 2 minutes, you can respond. All right. And for those of you who know me well, you know how hard that is for me. I never said nothing in 2 minutes in my whole life. Right. And so, like, I actually have to practice and plan and do bullet points. And that requires a delay and then for me to be calm when we're in that moment. Right. So, let's talk about how you cussed me off when I asked you to get off the PlayStation, you refused, and I pulled the power cord. Right? Let's talk about that. And here's my perspective. 120 seconds. Let's go, Dad. Right? And it is the agreement they have to stick through it. And then afterwards, if they can, if they choose to respond or not, then I will go with that. My goal is to help them build up to 5 minutes, right? And to respond more than they choose not to respond. Does that make sense, Yvonne?
Yeah, yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I was talking about a 6-year-old,
Mhm.
but when you said a high school, like you have a teenager. So yes, it makes sense. But just offering that, like be there for them at all times, regardless.
Well, the other
Um,
thing, Yvonne, is as parents, often we want to talk in the moment, right? And
yeah.
it is usually a terrible time to teach our kids a lesson, right? These
Hmm.
aren't dogs where we have to like remind them, we have to get on it right away so they can connect what they did to the consequence, right? It's usually the best idea for all of us to get regulated, right? And then for all of us to get regulated, re-establish that connection, right? Because the connection gets is in disrepair when we're arguing with each other or frustrated. Reestablish that connection and then have the conversation. And that might be tomorrow,
Hmm.
right? But that's actually where the best learning will come up. Hey, can we talk about that situation yesterday for a second? Right? Like when you did that, I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I just want to know, why were you so frustrated? Why
Hmm.
did you feel like you needed to scream at your sister? Um, and what did she, oh, she took something that you thought was yours, even though you haven't played with that for 5 years, and you got really upset. I mean, no, don't do that. And that really bothered you. I get that. You felt like it was yours and she took it, she didn't ask your permission. Let's figure out a place where you can keep your stuff the stuff that you really feel like is yours, that your sister can't get to. That's off limits to her, right? And then you can go into solution mode because you wouldn't come up with that solution when you're pissed off, right? And they wouldn't be
Right.
able to talk to you about their feelings, right? And so I really want to emphasize in all of this, right? For many of us who weren't raised like this, I certainly wasn't, right? And that, like, coming with empathy and then having like strong creative solutions is a different approach, right? But for me, what's important to know is that the boundary doesn't change. You still don't get to hit your sister. You don't get to cuss me out. You don't get to throw things. None of that changes, right? But what I am offering is that our screaming, threatening punishment of that rarely shifts those behaviors. If we can keep calm, then we can build their skills, right? When their logical brain is turned on, to actually build those behaviors all over time. I'm going to get my almost 14-year-old to be able to have a conversation for 5 minutes by the end of the year. God help me. And so, but it's building skills there. So we are at 12:30. So I want to officially thank everybody and close the official part of this meeting, but I will stay on to answer any questions that folks have, or talk about individual situations, anything like that. So I'll be around till 1. Thank you everybody for coming. It's a rough world out there right now, so take deep breaths, hang in there. Really appreciate you all. Anybody have a question or thought?
Hi, Ed. Well, thank you for letting me in. I know it was late, but it's always, so great to be able to come to these conversations and just learning so much from you all. Um, for me, it's a little bit tricky because my daughter is just two,
Mhm. Mhm.
2 20, 2 and 2 months, and it's just getting to the hitting stage, right? Especially when the two everything's so intense, and sometimes I narrate, oh my god, yes, your life is so miserable. You have your parents here, and they're trying to dress you up, and you don't want to. You're trying
Yeah.
to. I took you to the park, and you don't want to leave, but yeah, it's just about not reacting in the moment, right? Just trying to breathe out. And what I started doing lately is just like that's what I do. When I just sometimes she laughs, and it's just mostly for me, to not say things that I don't mean and then having to
Yep.
apologize,
Yep.
right? So, but I don't know any other advice you may have.
Okay, so first of all, I want to say what I heard you say is not saying something I don't mean and then having to apologize. The fact that you apologize is huge, right? Did your parents apologize to you?
Oh no, no.
Right? Right? I have not heard my mother apologize to this day.
Right.
This day. In fact, I remember her having a conversation with her um, friend on the phone. I think I was like either middle school or high school. And pardon my language, I'm quoting her. And she was talking to her friend. She was like, I'm like on my period and I'm so bitchy and I'm yelling at all the kids and I'm so short-tempered. And I was like, she knows? She has self-awareness around this. Why didn't she share that with us? Right? Because I sure noticed. Right. And that meant a lot. So I think modeling for our children, especially if we didn't have it modeled for us, like, hey, I made mistakes and I did something wrong and I want to repair it with you. Right. Because we often expect our kids to repair things for with us, right? That they've done. And but we if we don't model it for them, then um it's almost like we're expecting them to be bigger and better humans than we are, right? So that is huge that you're doing that. The other thing in terms of empathy, right? That as a 2-year old, your daughter all of a sudden has much more skills and understanding of the world than she did just a little while ago, right? Her ability to engage with the world has expanded so much, but her emotional regulation is still very, very low, right? And so when she's experiencing something like it's a crisis, it actually is a crisis for her, right? So stopping at the playground, even though you've spent an hour and a half there, right? And leaving is like, it does feel like the end of the world, right? And so I'm not saying that you stay at the playground. I'm saying that you can have compassion. I know it's so hard. I'm having so much fun with you too, right? So let me help you chill out a little bit. And then when you're ready, let's think of things that we're going to do that are super fun when we get home, right? If we could do anything, what would they be? Yeah, bake a cake. That would be a great one. Um, make an igloo in the house. That would be so cool, right? Whatever those things are. And then pick one that's reasonable,
Yeah.
right? But just understanding that her big ass emotions are appropriate and they are real. She's not putting on a tantrum uh just to get her way. She's putting on a tantrum because it does feel really big. And therefore, if you hold that understanding, right? And if you hold the idea, I am going to build her ability to do hard things. I am going to expand her ability to get through really difficult emotions and do so uh, in a thoughtful way where she doesn't have to scream, right? And you do that by being present and then building the skills with her, right?
It's easier when it's like I can know why she's acting, out or having that big emotion. But on the day to day, she goes to daycare all day. I come to work all day, and I do my best to leave work behind, at the door and not bring it home. But I don't have transition time. With the
Mm,
moment I get home, she wants to spend time with me. She wants to play. I still breastfeed her.
mhm.
So all that, and then it's like past an hour that I got home. I haven't changed my clothes. I haven't even go pee yet. And then she starts crying, right? Because it's been a long day that she's just been happy out
Ah,
there, and I'm her safe space to just let it all out.
yep.
But it's hard, and sometimes my husband will like, "Oh, you just got here an hour ago, and you're already like losing it with her. You don't have patience with her. Like, what's you need to like." And then he's like, "And then you want more kids, and you're not doing your best like for just one." It's tough.
And you're like, whoa, don't you have good ideas from the sidelines?
Right. I'm like, dude, I'm like, I haven't even go pee. I'm hungry,
Yeah,
I need a
yeah.
change. So,
So, and you pick her up from daycare?
no, he picks her up. So
Okay.
he gets home at 3, picks her up at 4, and then I get home around 6:30.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So he
So,
has an hour by himself, and I, from the get-go,
yeah.
I'm back
Okay.
home.
So here's what I want you to do first. All right. When you get home, you pull in the car, up the car, and you stay in the car for 5 minutes. Right. And you put on a song that you love. Right. And it can be something peaceful or it can be something you rock out to. All of the above are appropriate. All right. And doing that song, I want you to experience some joy. And then I literally want you to put your hand on your heart, right? And say, it's time to show up for my daughter. This is my time to be a mom, right? Right? Because the truth is, like, you only get so much time with your daughter, right? And
Yeah.
this is prime time. And there's also, this is the time to bond and connect, but also there's a ton of shit you have to do during this time, right? Like, there's
Make
so many,
dinner.
right? It's like the 12, there's 100 steps between now and bedtime, right? And so you have to do those in a way, but also be present with your kiddo because she really does miss you and she really does want to hang out with you. All right. And then I want you to have a routine for when you get in the house. All right. And so here's one that I recommend. You come in, you hug her, you kiss her. I missed you so much. I missed you so much. Right. Now, mommy has to pee and change. So I want you to chill for 5 minutes while I go do those things, right? And then you go do that, come back, right? And then if this allows, right? If your schedule allows, I want you to, this is what we call special time, right? And so it is 15 minutes of time, just you and her doing an activity that she wants to do. All right. She gets to choose it. Right. As a 2-year-old, she will choose the same thing every time and it will get very redundant and boring. I just want to warn you. But it will fill her cup. Right. So after you being away, this 15 minutes of like full play, no distractions, no phone, no TV, right? You guys bonding together, doing whatever she wants to do. Um, that will fill her cup and then you set a timer and when the timer goes off, right, you end with a ritual. So mine is it always ends with a kiss, right? And then you say like, okay, I have to go do other things, right? And she can do them with you. It doesn't mean you end engagement with her, but now maybe you're making dinner and she's stirring random things in a bowl, right? I'm a big fan of putting random bits of food in a bowl and having her stir it, right? Getting them involved in some way. And so like the connection is still there, but you're doing your thing now. right? I used to say like 2-year-olds can absolutely crack eggs, right? There'll be
Yeah.
shells in there and stuff. But now eggs are so expensive. I can't have them do it anymore, right? But so think of ways to, right, to do this, to fill her cup and establish that connection, and you will absolutely see the reactions, that the clinginess decrease, right? The also know in the beginning, when special time ends, she will pitch a fit, right? And you still have to end it. So when that 15-minute ends, the timer rings, you do your ritual, and you always end it on time. You're teaching her that there is an end to this, but that connection happens afterwards.
This is priceless. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm gonna definitely start today, and I'll report back next month.
Yes, please. I'm going to give you my email. I want to hear how it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Ro or Mickey, Ben?
Yeah, I have a question. So I totally relate to the competitive spirit. Ozzy is he's been in soccer, and they just play these little.
Ozzy's 5 now.
He's almost 6. He's going to
Okay.
be 6 in April. And they'll have these little scrimmages, and if the other team scores a goal, he got better actually. The last practice, he didn't get upset when the other team scored a goal, but all the other practices before that, he would just be like, "Ah, no!" And then at the end of the game, it was always tears, and to the point of like, if they're playing, sharks and minnows, if he gets tagged, he's like feigning that it hurt,
Right.
and I'm just like all I can do is be like, "Oh, buddy, I know it sucks to lose, that's part of playing games, it's like people spend their whole lives training and they still lose, But yeah, I'm curious what you feel like worked the best for you in your experience, and maybe for your son who experienced that.
Yeah. So he will develop, he will get better, even if you do nothing, right? In part because he will learn from peers and coaches, right? So over time, it's probably very acceptable for him to do that right now. Like 5-year-olds are used to other kids freaking out and crying, right? 5-year-olds are used to like a kid coming up and pushing them and falling over and crying and then playing with that kid half an hour later, right? That doesn't happen with 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
Right. And so the peer pressure, if you will, he will develop, he will get more control of his emotions, he will learn how to respond, and the peers will help with that. Now, that doesn't mean you need to do nothing. Right. So here are a couple of things that you can do. And you're doing the first one already, which is empathizing. Right. It sucks to lose. It really sucks to lose. I get it. Right. And so then later, or the next step, what I would recommend is doing some practice with him. Right. So if this is a skill, you want to practice the skill. So if the skill is handling loss or unpleasant situations in soccer gracefully, right? You want to have a conversation with him where you're like, I'm never going to be mad at you for crying. And what are other things you can do when the other team scores a goal? What are ways that you can express frustration or get the support you need, right? And so one of those could be, and a lot of this is redirecting energy, right? So this is where my kid punches me in the butt, right? Which, by the way, we did do in soccer. And I would do this on the field, but that's me, right? I was usually refereeing the game, so that was really funny when he'd come over and hit me in the butt and I'd roll around. All the kids loved it. But maybe It's he can stomp his foot 3 times and then come running over to you and give you a high five, and you're gonna give him like positive affirmations, right? Like, get back in there. I love you. I know you can do it, right? And so you have a ritual. If that's what you decide, tell the coach, right?
Okay.
And then I would also say, tell the coach that this is something that you're working on. Because if you're working on, like, if I'm a coach of 5 or 6 year olds, and you say, I'm working on, this is my goal. I'm like, thank you so much. How can I support you? Right?
Yeah.
Do you want me to come up with something with him in the moment so I can help build his skills too? Right? Do you want like we can come and grab each other's hands and go "Grr," at each other and then get back in the game, right? That can be our outlet, right? And so the coach is going to be super excited to build the skills and support you with that. But some sort of ritual when something bad happens, all
Yeah.
athletes have this, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? All athletes have, I mean, I'm talking like Olympic, pro, like have something that they do when they're frustrated and angry about losing, and then to reset themselves for the next thing.
Right. Yeah. You got to get back in there, right?
You
Like,
got to. And you also, you're learning, he's not ready to learn it yet, but you're clearing your brain,
yeah.
right, so that you can focus on the next thing.
Yeah.
And so you're
Tennis
teaching.
is like throwing a major fit.
Pardon?
Tennis players aside, it is.
Tennis players.
Tennis players have it too. It's when those things happen over and over and over, and their resetting's not working, and then they're like and implode.
Break the racket. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if you watched. Did you by any chance watch the Australian Open final?
Yeah, I watched it at the gym.
little.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
interesting.
And so Madison Keys beat, who was it?
I forgot.
Okay. So I forget who it is too. But it's a like Eastern European player, right?
Of course.
And so after the match, right, was over and Madison won, this player went over to the side.
Oh, that was cool.
She
Yeah.
came up and she hugged Madison, and they embraced and gave each
That's
other
very
like
cool.
really warm feelings. Then she went to the side, she took her racket and she smashed it on the ground like 5 times, dropped her racket, and then walked back in with like total grace.
Yeah.
And she got criticized for that, but I was like, why? She like showed up. She did the thing. She was like a gracious loser. She like gave props to Madison. She stayed for the whole after thing, but she had this one moment where she was like, I hate the freaking world and I'm gonna take this out. And I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I want.
The ritual is destroying their racket.
Yes. She's sponsored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine.
Right.
Yeah. But also remind yourself, Mickey, this is why Ozzy's in sports, right? You put him in sports so that he can have friends and run around, but also so he's tested with these kinds of things and learns to respond to them in the moment, so that later in life, when frustrations are really real and hard to handle, he has this experience to fall back on.
Yeah, it's like the best thing about sports.
Yeah. So keep him in sports.
He absolutely, I mean, he seems to be having fun, right?
He loves
Oh
it,
yeah, he loves it.
Yeah, he's enjoying, I mean, he cares enough to have a fit.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's other kids who are chasing seagulls, right?
That's what I'm like. All these other kids just seem like everything's fine and they're happy and they're playing. They get scored on and they're just like, woohoo, whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, ah.
No, he's into it and he's passionate about it, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And your job is to support him in remember, all emotions are okay, but not all expressions are appropriate. And so that's where you can help him with this.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then also when you do the thing, whatever it is, and he gets, and you said he's already improving, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like,
Class practice was like, I was like, oh, who's this kid?
and did you say that to him?
I did after. I was
Good.
like, wow, you really
Good.
had that when they scored, because he was the goalie and somebody scored on him, and he was like, he stayed smiling, which I was like, oh my God. It was like the first time. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's already making that progress. And so with your support, he's going to make even more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Coming up with a thing that he does that's, when he's feeling that, because he talks about it as a tingle in his body.
Yeah.
Like when he lashes out at me, he'll be like, but I don't know what to do when I get that tingle. I get that tingle in my body and then I just can't help it.
Yeah. So he's so expressive, right? He's like, that's such amazing self-awareness.
I know.
And so now it is like, how do we channel that tingle into an expression that is more acceptable?
Yeah.
Right. And because like it's so powerful that he's feeling this way and expressing it.
Yeah.
Right. And so now you have actual data to work with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The tingle. Like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so like kind of like the signal, right, that we talked about before. In this case, you're going to have that ritual, right? And also you may need to remind him in some way, right? So like, let's say it's you squeeze each other's hands and go, grrr, right? It may be that when a goal scores against him, you put out your hands
and
right? Like this. So he knows he can come and do that.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But don't with tennis rackets.
I wouldn't buy expensive tennis rackets right now.
Buy cheap ones, yeah.
Yeah. Probably the best idea. I may have thrown a pickleball paddle last week.
Oh, no.
He just played pickleball for the first time this week.
Very addictive.
It's so addictive, and it's so much more fun in the beginning of your pickleball career when you're like, oh, this is fun. We're out here, we're learning, we hit a shot. Now, like, I play 3 times a week, and I play at a very competitive level. And so,
you
like,
run right up the net right after the serve, right?
Yes. Yes.
I know you people, yes.
And now, like, if I miss a shot, whereas before I'd be like, haha, now I'm like, God. Okay, reset.
Yeah. Practice.
Way better before.
The good couples always run right up to the net after the serve, and they just smack it down.
Yep.
Like it's hard you got to be up at the net if they're up at the net too, right? You got to meet them there, or actually no, you got to stand back because they're going to be. If you're both at the net, it does not work.
Most points are won from the net. So even if they're there, you want to get to the net. But there's a whole bunch of skills to learn in the meantime.
Yeah,
there's a third shot drop. There's a counter attack. There's all these things. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, just have fun for now.
It's fun. I love it.
All right, y'all have a great weekend. Thanks for coming.
Okay. All right, thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Kitty needs to go.